Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Marriagepreneurs Podcast, where we're helping couples to build love, legacy, and wealth together. I'm your host, LaKisa Taylor-Allston, and today we're diving into two pillars that will absolutely transform the way you and your spouse move as a team: the shared vision and the defining roles from the Make Money Marriage Challenge. If you've been following the Make Money Marriage Challenge, then you already know. This is where things get real. This is where the couples stop surviving and start strategizing. So grab your notebook, grab your spouse, and if they're nearby, let's get into it. Here's what happens when couples don't have a shared vision. One person is dreaming while the other person is drifting. One person is building while the other is maintaining. And one person is planning for the future while the other is just living in the moment. And this can create friction. Not because you don't love each other. It's usually not about the love, but because you're just not aligned. So what do you do to have a shared vision? When you have a shared vision, decisions become easier. Money becomes a tool, not a tension point. Purposes becomes the glue that holds everything together, and your marriage becomes a movement. A shared vision gives your marriage a destination. It tells you what to say yes to and what to say no to. And this is really important because when you are in that alignment, you and your spouse, you don't necessarily have to do the check-in with each other when something comes your way. When you're an entrepreneur couple, especially if you have to make decisions on the fly or in your business, if you both know that you're aligned, then you already know what to say and how to respond to certain requests, maybe certain jobs or certain things that come that other people may ask of you or that come about in your day-to-day activities. So it's important that you have the alignment in your marriage, which is essentially the shared vision. How do you create it? Let's talk about exactly how you build this shared vision, because it isn't just the sit down and dreaming big. It's about being intentional, strategic, and spiritual. Start with the why. Ask each other, why do we even want to build wealth? What do we want to do to start a business? Or what type of business do we want to start? Why do we have or want to have or leave a legacy? And I want to go back just a moment. Business, or from a realtor, you may want to do investing, which essentially is a business endeavor that you and your mate can certainly come together in. And then why do you want to do all of this? A lot of people want to create generational wealth. A lot of people want to help their children to be smarter and have better financial literacy and opportunities than they had before. Others want to start things for maybe their community or others around them, their church, their ministry, to pour into people to help pass on growth. So ask yourself, why do we even want to do this? That becomes your purpose. And that why, and the answer to that is your engine. And how and what will come later. Identify your shared values. Values shape your vision. Ask what matters most. What do we want our family to stand for? What do we want our children to inherit, not just financially, but spiritually and emotionally? One thing, my family, my dad is a pastor. And even before my father became pastor of the Open Door Baptist Church, we're located in Washington, D.C., I could go back to my grandmother and how she expressed pastoral care for not only her pastor, but other pastors. Watching her and then watching how she responded to my father becoming a pastor and then my mom being a first lady. And this is just a little thing that was instilled. To this day, we as a family embrace the pastoral and first lady community, whether we are serving them well when they're in our personal space, or just looking out for them. That's become kind of something that I believe our family is known for. And trust me, in that community, it's hard to find good friendships and people that you can trust, even though the expectation is that in a pastoral or Christian community is supposed to be this way. That's not necessarily always the case. So I'm just being a little open and transparent about the fact that learning that, and it says it in the Bible, take care of the shepherd. Learning that and knowing that is something that has transcended throughout us. And I think as a unit, that's one thing our family has stood for. So, and I love that about us, because I'm a PK, and I love to certainly promote the positive sides of being a spiritual family. You want to look at the picture and paint it. This is where you dream out loud. Describe your ideal life in detail. Where are you going to live? Where are you living now? What does your day look like? How are you serving? What business or investments do you have? What does freedom look like for you? Take a moment and write everything down. A vision that isn't written is just a wish. A vision that is written becomes a roadmap. Review it regularly. Your vision should be a living document, not a one-time conversation. Revisit it. Figure out how often you all will come back and revisit it, whether it's monthly, quarterly, or annually. But your vision is something that you both should have in the forefront of your mind, so that you know how that you are moving for your marriage, your legacy, and your community. I want to switch to the second pillar, which is defining roles. Listen, love is not equal, but roles don't have to be identical. And in marriage, especially marriage and business, unclear roles create unnecessary conflict. So here's the truth. When roles aren't defined, everything feels personal. We sometimes take things personally because we're putting forth an expectation of our spouse. And that's usually not a good space, especially if the other person feels defensive or if they're insecure about the remarks that you're making. But when roles are defined, everything becomes purposeful. The roles matter because it eliminates the confusion, the resentment. It increases efficiency in your household. Each spouse can operate based on their strengths, not their expectations. They create accountability without nagging. A simple example that I can give you is just household chores. For me, and I think I mentioned this in a podcast before, I'm the primary dishwasher, whether I wash the dishes by hand or put them in the dishwasher. Now, that has become my role, and it has become something to help us to remain efficient in the household. I also put the dishes away, and I make sure. It's not that my husband never does the dishes, because certainly he does, but I am doing that to keep order in our home. On the other side, he's more of a green thumb, and we have a lot of plants in our house. So, and he keeps the yard and everything. And I said green thumb first because I know oftentimes the man does the landscaping at the house, but that's something that he loves to do. He likes to do, and it certainly makes our home feel a lot warm when he maintains the plants and everything that our house. It brings another level of living to our home that I've learned to appreciate. So these are two areas where we're functioning. We like to do it. It becomes more efficient in our house. And I'll help him water the plants sometimes and do those things because I can show the appreciation. If I did it, and I'm not a plant enthusiast, but I can appreciate it because I understand the benefit of what he does, just like he can appreciate me keeping our kitchen in order. So that's kind of our main hub, because obviously we all need our nourishment every single day. So it's great if we have things in order that help us move and be more successful. Defining roles is not about the hierarchy or the gender stereotypes, and it's certainly not about control. What defining role is, it's about clarity, it's about stewardship, It's about maximizing strengths. It's about honoring each other's gifts. And certainly beyond chores, you can present different gifts in the marriage. As we are entrepreneurs, I am doing more of our marketing for our businesses, or even the back end, the back office. And he's out in the field. I often say he's the one doing the hammer and nailing, but that is the truth of the matter. And he's also my muscle when it's time for me to stage a property or make sure everything, we just had a settlement on the home inspection addendum, is correct. So those are his gifts, those are his talents, and my talents is on the opposite end. So we're working together beyond our expectations so that we can be successful. So how do we actually define the marriage roles in marriage versus business? I just touched on that a little bit. But here's a simple framework that you can use today. 1, identify each other's strengths. Do a strength assessment. Not expectation, what you think they should do, what your mother did or your father did when you were growing up. Base it on your spouse's strengths. What do you do naturally? What drains you? These are the questions that you should ask. If something is draining you and you may not want to do it, but your spouse wants it done, you need to have a conversation about the best way to approach it. You may have to outsource it. What skills do you already have? And what skills do you want to develop? Once you go through this assessment, then you want to assign the roles based on your strengths, again, not tradition. For example, if one spouse is great with numbers, then they should probably be handling the budgeting. If one spouse is great with communication, they handle client relations. If one spouse is detailed oriented, then they should manage the operations. And if one spouse is a visionary, then they should lead with the strategy. In my household, that's definitely me. Then you should consider creating role agreements. Write it down. And I would say do this if you feel like that it is necessary. I do believe when you come into alignment with each other and you have the understanding of the shared vision, more time will go by where you'll have to maybe have meetings, so many meetings, or write so many things down. Once you're in alignment, you will find yourself moving in the same rhythm. So, but if you write it down, you're writing down who does what. You're writing down maybe when it gets done. You're writing down what the success looks like. I like to go for short wins. And sometimes it might just be, okay, let's complete 1, 2, 3 before the week is out, before the month is out. So we're going for the short wins, which builds both of us confidence, and we can sit back and measure what we've done. You may write down how you will communicate updates to each other, which again is important in an entrepreneurial marriage, especially if you're working together in an office together or have something like a business together that you are spending a lot of time. Maybe you're doing typical updates you would do in an office space. My husband and I, although we have a business together, we're not updating because he's out. And we're not updating each other until he gets home. And sometimes that might be late. But we try to stay on a regular schedule of how often and when we do that. So just whatever works for your marriage without making it something that's draining to your marriage, just figure out your communication updates and your communication style. Number 4, review and adjust. Roles evolve. And as your marriage evolves, things will change. So check in with each other. Again, set a monthly or quarterly schedule. Then number 5, celebrate each other's contributions. Affirmation is a fuel. Say thank you. Say that you acknowledge the effort that someone did and honor the work your spouse does, seen and unseen. And that's something I also like to share. I would say is Amu and I, we check in with each other. Yes, we wake up every day next to each other, but then we kind of have these calls and check-ins. What are you doing today? How can I help you today? We have a personal phrase that we share between each other: do well and be a leader, to give each other the encouragement that we may need to get through our day, and just to simply know that that person has my back. I'm loved, I'm supported, and I know that I can be successful, and we are a team. So, again, people talk about your love language and what your preferred method is, but everyone can benefit from support and acknowledgement and encouragement from their spouse. Finally, here's the truth: a marriage with a shared vision and clearly defined roles become unstoppable. You stop competing and you start collaborating. You stop guessing and you start growing. You stop surviving and you start building legacy. This is what the Make Money Marriage Challenge has been about: helping couples to move from confusion to clarity, from tension to teamwork, from dreaming to doing. If you haven't already, you can go back to the Make Money Marriage Challenge and look at the workbook. You can download just the workbook, or you can take the coaching courses, and this will change the way you and your spouse move forever. That's can be found on the marriagepreneurs.com or makemoneymarriage.com. But I want to thank you for joining me today. Share this episode with another couple who's ready to build love, legacy, and wealth together. Until next time, keep building, keep believing, and keep becoming the couple God has designed you to be.